is Eric Russ, a grassroots drifter. I work at an automotive performance-based shop. Why do I work in an automotive shop? It's because it's what I love to do. Ever since I've grown up, I've been around cars. I worked for a family business restoring classic cars since I was 14 years old. I got out of that after probably, I would say, 14 years. I did that for, well, I did that for about half my life, and then I tried going different avenues, tried construction, machining, a bunch of different things, and something just always pulls me back in. I just keep getting gravitated back to working on cars. It's what I'm familiar with. It's what I love doing. And it's just the most exciting and rewarding feeling when you pump out a customer car and they're extremely happy. I was working as a CNC machinist and supervisor at a plant, and the place ended up catching on fire. At that point in my life, I was going through a really depressing phase because I'm like, is this it? Is this all that life has to offer? As I'm, just punching buttons, changing numbers all day, every day. And then one day the shop caught on fire and burned to the ground. So the shop burned down and I ended up becoming unemployed. Well, I had messaged one of my previous employers that I worked with when I got out of college. I interned with him for a while and I've always maintained a good relationship with that shop. And he's like, hey, if you want a job, I'll get you on board. He's like, just give me a few weeks. And I was like, okay, awesome. So I'll just take a few weeks off and then, just kind of do some things, keep busy, keep doing the drifting. And then a few weeks turned into a few months and he kept stringing me along and stringing me along. A good friend of mine who I've been really close with for well over 10 years reached out to me and he's like, hey, my friend at this shop needs help and you would be an ideal candidate for that. And I'm like, okay, that sounds good. But I already have this other job offer. So I gave it a few more weeks and then finally I came here and then I met my current employer and it just seemed perfect because it's a shop that was just getting up off the ground and it was something I could really contribute to and help mold into a successful business. So for me, that's been kind of the most important part about it. And the reason I work in this industry also is because it also helps me support what I do as a hobby, which is my passion. So I can get parts more affordably. I have access to an entire shop that I can weld things, I can fabricate, I have lifts that I can use. And that's really helped out a lot. And it's also my work. It's what I'm passionate about. A lot of people don't have that. A lot of people are working on the ground with jack stands and, poor lighting and no air compressors. And I've been there. Like I used to work out of my garage and it's not fun. So to be able to make money and have access to all this stuff and have other people able to help you when you have a problem who have more experience or, they might have a different set of skills and they can just come in and say, hey, here's your problem and make things a lot easier. It's more of a team than it is like a job. Every day is just teamwork here. And I don't feel like an employee. I feel more like an owner because I treat the business like it's my own. So in exchange for that, like, yeah, I have freedom to come and go. I can go to events. I can take time off because this is all advertising and this is all to help benefit the shop and they want to see me succeed. So it's just a big circle of reciprocity and everything just builds off of itself. So I ended up taking this job and I've been here for coming up on about 2.5 years now. I'm learning stuff every day. Like you just look around here. I've got an '87 Grand National, '64 Impala, '56 Bel Air, a 2003 Nissan 350Z, an '88 RX-7. We work on everything here. I mean, you can work in like a standard automotive shop and just come in, change brakes, wheel bearings, and all that stuff all day, but that's not fun. That's not exciting. We're converting half these cars to fuel injection. We're putting two turbos on these cars. We're putting LS swaps and everything. I'm putting air ride in a '74 Pontiac Grand Am that has an LS swap with mirror image turbos, and I got to build the hard lines for the vacuum stuff for all the boost control, everything. Like we get to do some really cool stuff here, and that's where I find my enjoyment. Okay, for me, drifting started when I was a kid. Um, for me, it started in video games because I'd play like Gran Turismo 3 and I'd always get in that Pikes Peak Escudo car and I would just rip around the track. Well, the whole time I'm sideways. I'm not driving straight because driving straight and staying under control is kind of boring to me. So, and that progressed up as I grew up and I got into cars, with like my brother-in-law, and I got into imports because growing up I was into classic cars because that's all I worked on. I helped the family business and all, but there was just something more exciting about imports. And so I got into Hondas and I got into front wheel drive drag racing. And that was at the time, it was drag racing and street racing. And those were, to me, that was the most exciting thing in the world. And I was just so passionate about it. But you can only go as fast as you can afford. So you get your butt kicked a lot if you don't have a lot of money. And then, over the years, I built some pretty quick cars and I never really went to official sanctioned events and competed. And I always wanted to do that. Um, so about 5 years, yeah, it's been about 5 years ago. I was like, I really want to get into drifting. I started watching Formula Drift and watching all the competitions. And to me, it just looked exciting. Like the whole experience of sliding and blowing smoke everywhere and just watching the control these guys have was just, to me, I admired that. And the drag racing stuff is just driving in a straight line. What it all comes down to is just going in a straight line. Whose car's faster? Who can tree the other guy? Who can hit their exact dial in time? And that's not exciting to me. I don't like the mathematics of it. I want something that's got emotion to it, something that it's driver skill. Like it's willing to take the risks to get the rewards, knowing that if somebody messes up, everything that you've built can be destroyed. And that's kind of where the passion lies. But it comes down to when you actually get into the community, you find out that it's a lot more welcoming and accepting and inviting, that there's none of that competition stuff when you're driving with your friends. When you're drag racing, it's all about who's faster than the other guy. Nobody teaches anybody anything. Nobody shares information. Everybody just talks a lot of crap. But in drifting, I can go out and drive with a guy who has a 94 BMW and have the best time of my life. I can go out with a guy who has 600 horsepower, even though I have 280, and it'll still be the most fun experience ever, and you're stacking up all these people that are just in it because they love it instead of in it to beat the other guy. And then that comes down to the competition side of things. So over the last 2 years, I've been wanting to get into competition. So I've been focusing on seat time and just going to events, no matter what tires I have or how far away it is. I've been spending a lot of time just driving and driving and driving and driving, so I can get my skill level up to where it should be, to where I can be a competent driver in competition. And to me, the competition side of things is more or less proving to myself how much I can accomplish. At the end of the day, what's it all for? Like, we want to leave a legacy of some sort, right? We want to be remembered for something, and I'm not going to be remembered for never accomplishing any major feat. My first drift event in 2018 was the last event of Riverside Drift. It was at the Kentucky Speedway in the paddock. At the end of that event, it was the first actual event I made it to. My best friend at the time, he gave me a blue ribbon that said participant on it, because I finally participated in an actual event. I made it all the way. And then ever since then, it's always been up, 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 up. I've maintained that motivation level. Like, it just keeps me going because I know I can accomplish these things. I can accomplish these tasks, these goals that I set for myself. So after that event, I started taking every wristband that I get from every entry, from every track, and I write on them the date. I write on them, what interesting things happened, what I learned, what went bad, and then I take them and I shove them on that participation award. So it's, and I keep all of them. Now the problem is I can't fit them all on that little metal pin now. So so I'm gonna have to get like a binder or something to put them in now. But and each one of those tells a different story, because then I can look back at the pictures and the videos that all these media people put out. I can be like, I remember that. There was, at the first event I went to, there was a guy, his name was CJ Davidson, and he had a black 350Z. And this dude, we're in line for staging, and he ends up backing up into a fence post, just like the whole fence post at the end. He backed into it, bent it over, and somebody came up and they thought it was me because we both had black 350Zs. And I was like, oh no, it was that guy. And then I ended up going back to Riverside, probably the next 2 seasons, And I met that guy, and he's one of the funniest people I ever met in my life, and he's just a blast to talk to. And I never knew that, these lifelong relationships would build from, the first times you meet people. Like, I go back through the photos from, like, the first event that I do have, and I see all these cars that I now know who the drivers are. I know them on a personal level, and, you don't really find that everywhere. And it is just exciting to me because now I have friends all over the place. You can go to any drift event and make friends. It's that easy. You show up. If you're nice to people, they're nice back. Everybody's willing to be helpful and just support you. It's great. So now, if I ever go out to Indiana and drive out there, I have that whole team that I can go hang out with. I can pit with them, and I'm one of their family. It just and that's just an example. And ever since I started driving at Paoni, like, I know a lot of people. A lot of people know me. A lot of people say hi to me, even though I don't talk to them that much. Like, people wave, and it's awesome. And the Club Blues family, like, those guys are awesome too. And they've got their own style and they do things their own way. And it's you just meet all these people at all these different events. And even though they might vary a little bit, the whole core value of drifting is still there. So Pro Am is pretty much your entry level Formula Drift competition. So there's three tiers. You have Pro Am, Pro Spec, and then Pro One. I want to be at Pro One ultimately, and for me to get there, I have to start at the bottom, which is Pro Am. Well, technically, it's grassroots, right? Because you have to start grassroots, get experience, and then compete for a Pro Am license. So after Pro Am, you step up into the big leagues. So the big leagues, like Pro Spec, which used to be Pro Two. Um, you have to win there, and then you have to pretty much win a spot to get the Pro One license. So it's not the easiest thing in the world to do, and you're competing with people who have a lot of money and what they do for a living, which is kind of what I've been trying to do with my life, is make that what I do for a living. So for this season, I'm currently building the RX-7, which is a little bit overbuilt for the level of competition we're doing. It's a twin turbo LS wide body, and it's got the cage for Pro One, so all the safety stuff will be handled, so I won't have to mess with it after that. I'm pretty much building this car to last me all the way through all the tiers of competition, so I can just focus on driving. Um, it should be about 600 horsepower conservatively on low boost, 600 horse, somewhere around there. So it's going to cost a lot of money in tires. It's going to cost a lot of money in fuel. I mean, I've reached out to one of the other drifters who's already at that power level, and he said last season he went through $17,000 in tires, and I'm just like, oh. So I'm like, man, on top of spending all the money to build a car, which is every bit of what I want to say. Right now we're at about close to the $30,000 mark, and it's still not running. Um, and that's with help from people too. Like, there's certain parts, that I can get secondhand, or, we have a connection here, a connection there. And it's, a lot of it's through networking through this shop. You meet people and you just grow your network, and a lot of that helps out. That's how I save money to get to the level that I'm trying to get to. Biggest challenges are parts supplies and financial support. I'm paying for everything out of my own pocket, which means that there's a lot of things that I miss out on in life in general because I'm making the sacrifices to make this happen. Um, there's also part supply problems that are happening across the board. So even if I have the money to buy something, it might not get here for 3 months. Well, in less than 3 months is the first competition. So that knocks that out. I can't use that until I have everything I need. So the whole situation and the current world events that are happening is causing a lot of issues. Tire supplies, like the price of tires is, I mean, it's probably every bit of 50, 60, 70% more than it was last year. I used to be able to get tires for, let's say, $80 that are now $115. That's $25 a tire. It doesn't sound like, or no, it's $35 a tire. It doesn't sound like much, but when you're going through 10 tires a weekend, that adds up, and then that's the rising fuel costs, just transportation. My truck gets about 15 miles to the gallon when it's loaded. Um, I mean, I don't drive a nice car. I drive an $800 beater that I've had for about a year, and I totally neglect all of the maintenance on it because I'm trying to not spend money on it because I want all my money to go into this stuff, and because that's what is supporting my goals, where I want to go. So we kind of make sacrifices in certain areas of life, and just to kind of get where we're going. There's nights where I'll be working late on my car. I put a cot upstairs in the office, and I won't go home. I live 75 miles away. That's 150 miles a day, and you figure that out over the course of 5, 6 days. That's a lot of money and a lot of time and gas. So, like some nights I'll just sleep here at the shop and wake up and go right to work, and then 6, 7, 8 o'clock whenever I get done, I just start working on the car, and then it's just late nights and trying to get as much done as I possibly can. How does it work in the drifting world? Most of the time, my introductions are either based on somebody who has like the same car or somebody that needs help. If somebody's working on their car and I look at it, I'm like, that looks like a big job. I carry a lot of tools with me, and I want to see everybody drive. Like, I want to see everybody have fun because I know what it's like to have my car broken and not be able to do anything. Like you waste all that money and effort just to get to the track, and then for something stupid to happen. Um, so a lot of my introductions with people are based off of just friendly experiences. Um, for example, Casey Rodriguez, he pitted next to me at Midvale. He had a black 350Z. We chatted it up. We didn't drive together until we went to, I think it was one of the Matt's Erie events. The first time I drove with him was actually in the competition, if I remember correctly. Uh, but Casey and I, even though we're competing against each other, we're still buddies. Like, I can message him at any time of the day and he'll respond. We'll talk about stuff. Alan Boss has been super helpful, because the first time I really met him, I saw his car at Midvale. It's all carbon fibered out. I'm looking at it and I'm like, this dude has to have every bit of 100 grand in this car. I mean, you're talking, it's got carbon fiber overs, like the whole cooling system's in the back. It's got an LS and it's supercharged. And I go and talk to me like it's a crate engine. I'm like, oh, you got money for a crate engine. What do you do for a living? Because I want to do that. So, but and he was so humble too. Like, so I was asking him questions about his car. I'm really interested because I'm like, I have the same car and I'm trying to get to his level. I'm just like a nobody with a stock 350Z, and I'm seeing how he does things or any input or advice he can give me because obviously this guy's been through all this stuff, right? So, and he was really helpful in just talking to me and explaining, why he did what he did on his car and all this stuff. So I ended up doing a pretty bad dirt drop on that track that day, and it ended up bending my camber arm, and it just ended up just breaking. So my wheel is like super tilty wheelie boy as I'm pulling up to my trailer, and he comes over and he says, "Hey man, what happened to your car?" And I said, "Well, broke one of my control arms." So like, I'm in the zone, having a great run, and I swing it a little wide at Midvale, and my left rear tire comes off the track, just dips down into the dirt a little bit, and then I come off the track. And I'm like, I heard a clunk. I'm like, car seems to be driving fine. So I pull back around, get back in grid, and I do another lap, and then the car starts acting really weird. And I'm like, oh, something is not right here. So my camber arm had broke. So I drove back to the pits, and I just my wheel is just like this in my wheel well, just cambered in like I'm a stance guy. And I pulled up to the trailer, and Alan came over and he asked me, he's like, "Hey, so what happened to your car?" And I said, "Well, I broke a control arm." He goes, he gets looking, and he says, he's like, "I have like 10 of those in trailer. Do you want one?" And I was like, "You carry spares?" Like, I started thinking to myself because it's already the end of the day. It was the last session, and I'm like, you know what? I think I'm just gonna like. It's really nice of him to offer that, but I also need an excuse to buy upgraded parts. So I said, "I really appreciate the offer, but I'm just gonna call it quits for the day." And that really stuck with me because Alan's such a humble person, and he's really down to earth. He's kind of quiet. He seems a little bit unapproachable sometimes, but if you just talk to him, you can see that he's a super friendly guy. Like, he's super easy to get along with. So a few weeks had gone by, and I was trying to make an event, and the camber arms that I had bought to replace my factory ones required a actual true coilover setup. So the 350Z from the factory has a spring bucket and then a separate shock. Well, the arms that I'd ordered needed the actual true coilover to where it would have a central mounting point. And I'm like, crap, I'm in some deep doo doo. What am I going to do about this? So I made a post on Facebook and I was like, does anybody, have a set of coilovers readily available that I could buy? And, because I was on time constraint. Well, Alan reached out to me in Messenger and he goes, hey, I have a spare set of competition coilovers, that you can borrow if you want. And he's like, my mind was blown again because like this dude is like a super caring, giving person, obviously. And I kind of admire him for that because most times when you find people that are wealthy, they kind of like pull back and they don't really, you know. But it's just a nice guy, like genuinely down to earth. And then his family, you come to see his mom, and she is just cheering him on all the time. It's like mama's boy, and I kind of know that because I'm a mama's boy too. But so yeah, Alan's been super helpful. Whenever I have a question, I can always reach out to him and ask him, and he'll answer it the best that he can, or he'll find information for me. So I can't say enough positive things about him from my experiences. First answer I can give to that is because it's fun. Like you get more enjoyment out of drifting than any other motorsport. Um, I've done some road course stuff. I've done go-karts. I've done drag racing, and drifting has just been the most fun out of all of it. You're going completely sideways. You're putting a car that's in control out of control, but still controlling it. Like, how does that make sense, right? Um, and then driving with friends and driving with new people and meeting new people is just like that's another part that really gets me hyped up because you see this car that's over here in the pits and you're like, that's a sweet car. You can go talk to the guy. Next thing you know, boom, you guys are like best friends. Everybody has a kind of a similar personality, so like the vibes are pretty the same, and it attracts a really good crowd, like a really, really good crowd. Um, to me, though, drifting is also taking on the form of what am I? What can I do? What can I accomplish? How far can I go? How good am I? Like, how good can I be? And and that's what really pushes me is that I'm doing something that I love to do already. Okay, how far can we take this? The biggest thing that I've learned is to not be shy and timid, and that applies to dealing with people and driving. When I did my very first tandem, I was driving with Theon, and we were on the same exact tire. His car made more power, but we were on the same tire. We were at Midvale, I remember that. And Tom Perner actually jumped in behind me, and I'm like, this could end very badly. Like he didn't know me. He didn't know this was my first tandem. And so my first tandem was a three-car tandem. And then after that, it was just Theon and I. And Theon's a fantastic driver, and I look up to him for that, and I cannot say that enough. He has a lot of doubt in himself, but like I know this guy's got it. So we're on the same exact tire, right? And I watch the way that he throws the car around. And I start thinking to myself, I'm like, our cars weigh about the same. We're on the same tire. Why can't I throw my car like that? Why can't I manhandle my car? And it turns out that I was just too afraid. So I started driving like he did. I started mimicking him in the chase position, and I started learning more and more and more. And it's really adapting to driving styles and seeing what can be done, what's possible, how far can you push things. And that right there has been the biggest eye opener for me because being able to drive with somebody else and see what they can do versus what you can do, and see if you can get to that level. See if you can get better than what level they're at, And then that's the natural progression of things. It starts off, it's like a little bite. You're like, man, I really like this. You don't know anybody. You dip your toe in the water. You go to these events, and then you start meeting people. Next thing you know, you've got a whole family at the track. Everybody's excited to see you. You're excited to see everybody. Like, we look forward to the Matt Erie events. Like, I can tell you, there's probably at least 10 or 15 people that stand out to me, just as drivers, and not just people that attend these events, but that I get excited when I think about, oh man, I can't wait to go see this person. I can't wait to go see this person. You never get that feeling when you're going to the DMV, you know? So So it's the fun, it's the acceptance, the all inclusive, the inclusion, everything, and like AJ is just such, oh, he's such a great guy because he's accommodating all of this. He sees the community for what it is, and he's all about it. He had a water box put in so we can cool our tires. It ended up coming in at the end of the season, but like, how many tracks do you know that are going to do something like that for a different type of racing, just for them? On average, we have what, 150 cars for the Mad Series events. We started running out of space. What does that say? Like, it's a great event with great people, and everybody keeps coming back. It's 3 solid days of shredding. So I just, I don't. You can't say anything negative about the drifting community. There's, I mean, there is obviously a little bit of a void between the competition drivers and the grassroots guys. The grassroots guys just want to go relax, hang out with their friends, and throw down some fun laps. The competition guys are the ones that are a little bit more strung up, the ones that are pushing and pushing and pushing, and they're investing everything they've got. And I want to be in the middle. I don't want to be either of those extremes. I want to prove things to myself and to other people while still being able to blend in with both communities. If you look at Pro One, you see all those drivers, they're all friends. Every one of them, they'll share parts. They'll go to, all these other teams and they'll be like, hey man, do you got this? Do you got this? Can we get this? And they'll share parts. And that's competition. If the other guy that's driving doesn't show up to the line, you automatically get a win. But instead, they're out here helping each other. That's the way the drifting community is, even in competition. You go to drag racing, you break apart, you go to the guy you're gonna race. He's gonna be like, no, get out of here, loser. So, and you just don't find that support anywhere. Like, it's so unique to drifting. Not to mention, it's the most fun you can have in a car. There is no debate on that. I will argue anybody that in a polite, friendly manner. There's also that little void between the people who are like street drifters. Yeah. And I say that in air quotations because that's not really, I mean, you can go out and lay skids on the street, but A, you're putting yourself and others in danger. Not that you're not putting yourself in danger on the track, but it just, there's no, there's no, there's no pride in it. When you show up to a racetrack to drift in front of hundreds, thousands of people, like, you're taking that step out of your comfort zone and you're putting yourself out in the center of everybody's attention. To me, that takes a lot more than saying, I street drift. The only counter argument that I can offer to that is that you get a bunch of tries to do the layout. If you're street drifting and you're out and you're not hitting the same exact spot every time, everything's different. Pavement surfaces, like weather conditions, that's about the only thing that I can see being any arguable point. Oh, I'm doing something different every time and I can not crash my car every time. Okay, well, let's see you do that in a competition environment. Yeah, I have no interest in street drifting. Like, I'll drive a car on the street, but as soon as somebody like rolls up next to me, I'm like, see you. Drifting grassroots is a family. I guess there's a lot of reasons it's hard to narrow down. Um, because drifting itself is supposed to be fun, and everybody's supposed to be there having fun. And people don't want their fun ruined. They want everybody else's fun ruined. Like, so everybody does everything they can to support and bring everybody up. And I got really excited when I first started driving and I started meeting people because um, a good friend of mine, his name's Alex, and he's from Riverside Drift. I would come back from doing a lap and he'd be like, "Hey bud, that was great. Like, you're looking good. You almost got that last turn." And just that little bit of support, that little bit of compliments, like, you just feed off of that. And then you start seeing the quality of these people. These are people that genuinely care about you. You don't find people that genuinely care about you in all these other motorsports. Everybody wants to see everybody succeed in drifting. It's the funniest thing ever because this guy's on my door, but like, I like it. This guy is like putting his tire, he's rubbing my paint off, but at the same time we're both having fun. Man, did you see that run? Yeah, dude, that was great, dude. That was awesome. and you see that support across the internet too. People that you might not have a super close relationship with take excitement in that. And it just, when I'm at the track, I try to make sure that everybody is having the best time possible. If everybody comes over to my trailer, I'll have beverages, snacks, I'll offer people stuff. We'll stand there and chat. Like the one time I got that picture of all the media people hanging out in my trailer at once, it's like, you know, and it's nice because people come visit you, people that you might not have the time to step away from working on the car, and you walk across the lot and track somebody down to spend time with them. It's nice to have people just come say hi, and to be honest with you, it's those little interactions that really drive me. Um, I'll be friendly with anybody. Anybody that wants to be friendly with me, I'll be friendly with. If you're not going to be friendly with me, I'm just going to disregard you. I'm not going to go around talking smack, because what's that going to do? It's just going to cause drama, and we don't want that in the community. We want everybody to have fun, and drama kills fun. So we don't need it. We don't want it.